MLK Day? Twitter says Luis Castillo is a Yankee and DJ will be spinning sex in the sets in the Bronx. Time of Diehards is on. Well, for those of you lucky enough to have caught the beginning of the live stream, you caught the funny opening. That will be the blooper reel opening. But if not, well, I don't know if we'll release that one ever. Anyway, welcome to our very, very, very special episode of Diamond Diehards today on Martin Luther King Jr. Day here in the United States. And of course, that's the type of holiday that we like to celebrate all over the world because of this. It's a day about love and unity, forgetting about all these politicians and everything that's happening in the 2020s here. It's all about the love when you're talking about Dr. King. And in mere moments, Dawg will have a very special veterans of the day with an homage to that. In the meantime, we want you to check the show out. If you're watching right now, you're on the Facebook group. And otherwise, you'll be catching the video at some point or the audio at some point on YouTube, Twitch, uh, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, everywhere you find your podcast, you'll be catching it. So we want you to do that. We want you to subscribe on any of those platforms. Hit us up also on LinkedIn. We're over there. We're doing some business over there as well. So trying to grow this thing out a little bit. LinkedIn is a good place, we figure, and hopefully someday soon we'll be streaming this stuff live over there as well. Waiting for a little approval. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, fmsgraphics.com, for all your printing and promotional needs, not just for the holidays, but for all year round. fmsgraphics.com, very easy website to use. Orders deliver very quickly. Printing and promotional needs, that will be, if there's been a little dip in that sort of thing, boy, when the economy opens back up all the way, you're going to probably really need to get the word out there about your business. And we want you to use fmsgraphics.com as your choice to do that. We have some good stuff for you here very shortly on January the 18th, after we've taken a little time on the sideline since the emergency Francisco Lindor episode. And the thing that we want to kick it off with, as always, is with the Dawg, Jeff Healy, bringing in veterans of the day today. Dawg, welcome.
Riz, great to be back, and great talking baseball again today. Again, in light of this special day that we're recording the show, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we decided we start pecking around and whatnot. Had a couple different options on here, but we finally settled on the Tuskegee Airmen. So the Tuskegee Airmen, for those who know, were members of the military, Army Air Corps, that maintained, flew, and fought alongside the white counterparts in World War II. It was the first fighter squadron formed by solely of African Americans. This unit escorted bombers over Italy for well over 1,500 flying missions and had over 160 confirmed Nazi aircraft kills. Unfortunately, they were still held at arm's length by the rest of the army, as they were housed in segregated barracks, substandard housing, and received hazing, etc. In 1945, a group of Tuskegee Airmen were denied entry into a military club on the basis of their skin color. They entered anyway, and more than 100 of the Tuskegee Airmen were subject to courts-martial for quote-unquote mutiny, which is ridiculous. These airmen received legal help from a young lawyer named Thurgood Marshall, later to make his name as a Supreme Court justice. And just aside that we looked up there, Thurgood Marshall was already winning cases when he was 32 in front of the Supreme Court. So, it's kind of reflecting how you're doing in life. He was 29 out of 32 in front of the Supreme Court, which is a pretty spiffy batting average, if you have to say. So anyway, once again, wrapping up, our veterans of the day are the Red Tails of the Tuskegee Airmen.
So apropos for any day, but maybe a little bit better today. Now, Dawg, we were talking in our pre-show meeting about, what's the MLK legacy for baseball. It's not the same as like Jackie Robinson Day, right? Like where you
Yeah.
have a day, he was a player. I mean, But what you do see, especially if you go basically anywhere on the internet, but like particularly MLB.com, they've really put together a lot of good a lot of good pieces about it, and you got some good faces in there that Howard Reynolds and Kutch, there's there and good pieces that are, written pieces, video pieces, whatever. And, we'd encourage you to definitely take a look at that stuff. But most of all, what we like to encourage is just be nice to each other. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And, on a baseball field, that's it happens, right? Most of the time it happens. You play rough, you chirp, whatever, and you usually get back what you're given. You play hard, you play sportingly, right? And you get respect. And nobody on a baseball field in 2021 gives a rat's ass what color you are. And it should be that way uh, everywhere at all times. And until it is, we'll keep working at it. And when it's not, it's good that we've had people like Dr. King to be an inspiration, so many generations later. I mean, what, 52 years now it's been to, make us instill these values into our generation, the generations past us, and the generations to come.
Very well said, Vince. Very well said. It is kind of interesting, just as you were talking there, sort of the intersection in our show of baseball and the military, right? And both institutions have actually had a strong influence in breaking down the walls of segregation throughout the country. Again, having blacks serve in World War II and come back as war heroes, and eventually start to be accepted as such and honored as such. Obviously Truman formally desegregating the military right after World War II, and almost simultaneously leading to the breaking down the color barrier in baseball as well. So yeah, it's sort of a special day, I guess, for Diamond Diehards.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we like to think every day is a special day for Diamond Diehards, but some days are more
Yeah,
special than others.
yeah,
Maybe
it's
this
just
is
like your kids. Sometimes one's a little more special. Let's be honest.
maybe in your house.
A little foreshadowing of the Diamond. What was it? What's our segment again?
Diamond
Diamond
Dads?
Dads. Diamond Dad.
Diamond
That's it.
Dads, yeah.
That was it.
Diamond
I kept
Dads.
having
We'll be
Diamond
doing
Dog stuck in my head.
Dog's going to talk about his water bill in the Diamond Dads segment at
Oh
the
my God.
end of the show. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about um, something really fun, especially for Yankee fans or really Reds fans. Maybe not as much. That seemed to just morph over the previous few days. How Twitter, which apparently just runs the whole country now. Apparently, Twitter decided at some point this week that Luis Castillo is going to be on the Yankees, and that he's already been traded. So you got guys like Jeff Passan coming on and refuting like a Spanish language Twitter. I actually gotta go. I should go back and find it. Like I texted one of my friends, my friend Glenn, he's bilingual. I was texting him about it. He's a huge Yankee fan. Nobody hates Gary Sanchez more than my friend Glenn Santos. I'll tell you that. Um, and wants him gone, and he's hoping some way that in the Luis Castillo deal, I think that he'll be gone, and the Yankees will sign JT Realmuto. More on that later. But man, this like I sent it to him to see if he'd like check out, the Spanish language feed and like give me like because I could translate it a little bit and I can kind of read and understand a little bit of Spanish, but I don't get like the inflections and like the
Yeah, the
baseball juice.
slang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the baseball like what I know what they're saying, but what are they saying, right?
Mhm.
And the guy who runs the Twitter like jumped back at Jeff Passan and was like, "Look, I didn't say that he wasn't getting that the trade was done. Essentially what he said was if I feel like what he was trying to say is if the Reds agree on their side, the Yankees have already agreed on like the principle of the deal. Like the Yankees are saying, okay, if you guys are in on this, we're in. So what it sounds like really, if you read between the lines, is the Yankees put in like a really solid offer out there that they're strong on, and probably they're not going to move it much, if any, but that if the Reds are, now going to take that and try to shop it around elsewhere and decide, then it's really kind of the ball's in their court. And if they can get more from somebody else and they want to actually make the deal, then they could do it. And if they don't get more and they want to just keep them, which I don't understand why you wouldn't just keep him, because that's the hardest kind of guy to get, right?
Yep.
A frontline starting pitcher who's not making much money for a while and who you have years of control over. I don't know why teams are always rushing to get rid of those guys or considering it. But yeah, I think in this case Twitter's right. I think Luis Castillo should be on the Yankees.
Sure, we deserve all the toys in New York. That's it.
Oh yeah. I mean, that would be the arms race between the Yankees and the Mets. Meanwhile, the arms race is really happening in San Diego because, Dawg, the Padres, right before we started our live stream here, the Padres made the move to get Joe Musgrove from the Pirates. It's apparently, let's see. Okay, so I'm looking at Matt Kelly's story at Matt Kelly MLB on MLB.com, and he says they Pirates and Mets sources
I'm
told
about to say, yeah.
MLB the
Actually, I
Yankees.
just saw that. I'm pulling up on MLB trade rumors here.
Okay, New York will receive so the Mets are going to get Joey Lucchesi. Pittsburgh will receive 5 prospects, 4 from San Diego and 1 from the Mets. And the Padres obviously received Joe Musgrove. None of the clubs have confirmed that a trade is in place, and the swap is pending the successful completion of physicals. So there you go, Dawg. It's like,
Oh,
does this count as emergency episode? The
I
Mets
guess
get
so.
Joey Lucchesi. Emergency episode. Diamond Diehards is on again.
What about the other 4 families?
I mean, the whole podcast is like Padres, Cardinals, Yankees, Mets, and maybe the Brewers.
Yeah.
That's been like the
And
history of
Pittsburgh is setting up for success in 2028. You feel so bad for the Pirates, right? I mean, they always like develop decent guys, and they just can't keep any of them, and it's just, I don't know. I guess somebody's got to get it. I might as well help out my team for once, but you feel for these like really really small market teams like that just don't have like the front office magic that like the Rays do. It's just like the Pirates they're just a continual feeder system, kind of like the Expos used to be back in the day. It's not it kind of breaks you up a little bit. Not that much though. How's this guy? Is this guy pretty good?
Yeah, did it break you up when like Ed Ott was beating people up in the Mets in the 70s? I don't know. Did it then? I don't know, Dawg. You tell me. But look, I mean, what does it do? It further bolsters the rotation of the Padres, right? It further bolsters the rotation of the Mets if you think Joey Lucchesi is gonna, compete for one of those starting
Yeah, the number
spots,
5,
right?
right? Probably fills it. Yeah.
Or I mean, at least he's in contention. But that Padre staff is Danielson Lamet, Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, Chris Paddock, and Joe Musgrove. There's just there's no holes in that. Like there's no I mean that's 5 guys who are all, you know, top 3-ish kind of starters, but at least in potential. But and 3 of them are like kind of number 1-ish type guys, and Musgrove is good. I mean, I really like Musgrove. The Pirates Hall includes, again, this is Matt Kelly on MLB at Matt Kelly MLB. The Pirates Hall includes right-hander David Bednar, along with a group of minor leaguers, including outfielder Hudson Head, the Padres' 7th-ranked prospect, left-hander Omar Cruz, San Diego's number 17 prospect, and right-hander Drake Fellows from the Padres, and catcher outfielder Endy Rodriguez, the Mets' number 14 prospect. So the Mets traded Endy Rodriguez for Joey Lucchesi. That's pretty good. You're trading your 14th prospect for a guy who's going to battle at, the back of your rotation probably.
Yeah.
That's
man, never heard of the guy.
a great. I mean, but like he totally has a great catcher name, Endy Rodriguez, and he's a catcher outfielder. He's like a mixture between Endy Chavez and Pudge Rodriguez.
This kid can throw.
He'll
He's got stronger arm than Lucchesi.
If there's a pop up behind the plate, he's going to dive over the wall to catch it.
I got it, Skip.
That was deep. That was deep Met
Yeah,
humor.
you would have been the fastest Mets catcher since Choo Choo Coleman.
Yeah, or well, since Robinson Chirinos or Alex Trevino. It's a good deal. I got, dude. The Padres
Not
are
bad.
keeping this. The Padres are keeping this hot stove on
Keep it.
fire. But dog, it's January 18th. I mean, it's not November 18th. It's January 18th. The
Yeah.
World
Do we have
Series
2 weeks
ended.
left? Yeah.
The
Do
World
we have two
Series ended in
weeks?
October. Pitchers and catchers are on the horizon here. We think,
We think,
and
right?
and the names out there are, this is bigger than when it was Manny Machado and Bryce Harper sitting out there trolling for a deal, both of whom got excellent deals considering what went down. And now talk. I mean, look at this. You got George Springer, you got JT Realmuto, Trevor Bauer, Marcell Ozuna, Marcus Simeon, Nelson Cruz, Didi Gregorius, Masahiro Tanaka, James Paxton, among others. Right? I mean, those are all prominent names. Actually, MLB has to update and remove DJ LeMahieu from that left gutter that they have there. I'm giving them a lot of credit. It's a great site. And of course, if you're a baseball fan, you're probably on that site every day anyway. But um, I mean, at this point, I might have to flip flop on my earlier thing about like the Blue Jays aren't going to be players, dog, because you know what? I will say this. I will say this. I have steadfastly said the Blue Jays are not going to spend this money that everybody thinks that they are going to spend. Um, I did thankfully throw in the caveat that if it starts to happen, like is happening right now, that these guys are still out there and they're not getting what they're asking for, if the Blue Jays are then willing to take a reduction in the annual value and, give the years that these players want, then that's when they actually become a player. They're not paying full freight on any of these guys, period. End of story. At January 18th levels with COVID happening in 2020 and the potential of whatever we're going to see in 2021 on the horizon, nobody's paying full freight for these guys. So it's either you're going to see short term deals at high average annual value. And here's where I segue into this segment, dog. Or you're going to see guys like the American League batting champion and two-time top three MVP and the American League finalist DJ LeMahieu get signed for 15 million a year and get the 6 years out of it. Because and I didn't see that coming. I'll admit it. I
Yeah.
didn't see the 90 million over 6 year deal coming. And dog, my math is right, right? 15 million per at
Roger
that
Dodger.
uh, at that rate. So for 15 million a year, I'm all in because you know what? He's in those last 2 years, 15 million is not, that's not as huge of a crutch as 32 million that you're paying for these extra years, like per year when you have these guys that are going to be really timing out. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
if DJ LeMahieu's still playing anywhere near this level for the Yankees in 6 years and he's still playing a middle infield position, then I mean, that's the greatest deal in the history of sports.
Yeah.
But I mean, you
You,
can
you kind of look at almost for it's almost like a four. It's almost like a 4 and 20, and the back 2 years are like 5 mil each, right? Or 10 mil. Sorry, 10 mil each.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
No, 5 mil each. Yeah, 90 million. Yeah. So
Right.
it's just like so we were kind of throwing around the 20 mil a year was kind of like seemed like his sort of axe in that, and it's sort of like they just extended the years to bring the AV down to help out for luxury tax, but from sort of big picture budgeting perspective, yeah, you kind of see that's the sort of the value sort of breakout, right?
Yeah. I mean, if
So
is George Springer settling for 15 million a year? No. Will he settle for 20? Well, if you give him 8 years, he might, right? And then he still gets his 160 million, and you could load the contract in the beginning. So it has to do more with like maybe this becomes a new trend here, at least for the short term, for guys like Springer
if you're
and
going 8 though, he's not getting 20. Like I think even 520. I mean, right now he's supposedly 5 and just over, right? So let's call it five times 23. I mean, the number I've sort of heard is 115 at this point. I mean, if you're adding 8 years 7
Well,
years.
okay,
You
so
better be south of 20 mil
what if you
that
give
one
him 15 million a year for 8
for
years?
a rest. Okay.
You
I
doing
mean, that's
that?
only the 9 mil. Oh, sure, but that's only 90 mil. I mean, that's very, very
No, it's
little. Too
not.
much for him.
No, 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 no.
No, it's a 120.
6.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Jeez,
So
what's wrong with me tonight?
yeah,
I'm no numbers
yeah. So it's
guy. I can't
120.
add anything tonight.
So you give him 120 for 8,
Yeah, I
or you
think you
give
do
him,
that.
how about
Yeah.
100 for 6? You give him 100 for 6, 102 for 6 to make it
Oh yeah.
Did I do that right?
Yeah. I mean, they're doing 5 for 115 now, right? So I'm going to assume the 115 number can't drop.
So
So if
5
you go
for 115
6,
is,
you probably go 6 for 120,
do
and
the
then
math for people. 5 for
7.
115 is
5 for 115
23,
is
right?
23. Yeah.
So you're talking, I mean, that
So each
maybe
year
is,
you drop it 3. So 6 is 120. 7 is 17 mil, and this is getting harder. This is 119. So you're kind of around the same number, and you're
okay.
probably around like 120, and then you start playing with the years at that point.
Now, if you're a team, that starts to
It's
work.
31. I mean, how much
Yeah.
more do you want?
I mean, if you're a team, those numbers start to work for you, right? 30 million.
Yes and no, though, right? This is what we said before, right? This is how you get caught in that Yankee trap that you were talking about when we started off the postseason, right? That's how you get suckered into it, in my opinion, right? Especially you're looking at Springer, as you rightfully sort of point out. He's probably got 2 more years in center, maybe. So you're extending Conforto next year. You think Nimmo's a pretty darn good player in its own right. I'm making sure I can't sign those guys because Conforto's got to take 1 or 2 corner spots. I don't think that's going to happen. I think right now it almost feels like doing when the Mets are going to wind up with Springer is either the Blue Jays. I mean, or he goes on to prove it, and where you get the push there is right. All right, George, do you want to go to the World Series, or do you want to go to Buffalo? I mean, that's what I do with the Mets. I'm like, whatever is with the Blue Jays, we can match any number you want. We can sort of play this along the 523 like a Lucchesi right now. I mean, again, that's sort of another money saver, right, for the Metsies. That maybe you saved enough dough on there where you say, you know what, we can still play the 523 for Springer, and you're not going to get better anywhere else. You might get the same in the Blue Jays. Maybe you save some taxes, but nobody's ever heard of you. Or you could come here and hang out next to Lindor and hoist a trophy and make a fortune
Again,
in Lindor's again, right?
and you're
be
close to home, right?
Yeah.
So
So I mean, that's it. I don't think you have to, and I think the Mets been smart on that one, right? Don't compete against yourself. They have last look. And that's a huge. And right now, this off season is really shaping up that you want last look more than anything else, because you're going to have that opportunity. And then who knows on Power? I have
I
no
know.
idea. He'll probably wind up on the Dodgers. It'd be ridiculous.
Well, I mean, so I don't blame Bauer for, really holding out, because there's just no competition for him. Like, for the outfield spots, for the, even the infield spots, the catcher spot. I mean, there's not really competition for Real Muto. It's just that a lot of teams are willing to go with what they have, or piece that position together without putting the dollars and the years in there behind the plate, because of the, the high risk and not generally as high reward. That scenario that you'd get with a starting pitcher, where, yeah, there's a little high risk in terms of the dollars, but there's often very high reward in, having Garrett Cole at the front of your rotation for 30 something $1 million a year, right? Like,
Yep.
there's a really big reward for that. It's like every fifth day your team is awesome, no matter what kind of crap you have behind them,
Yep.
potentially that you could beat anybody. A catcher doesn't necessarily afford you that same thing, even if you don't have to pay him as much.
Yep.
What I think would be interesting is, maybe some team is going to that just hasn't been talked about. It's always the Mets, it's always the Padres, the Yankees are always mentioned, the Dodgers are always a dark horse, right? Sometimes you hear like the Nationals. You're not hearing anything about the Cubs because they're, sort of maybe hanging on to this window and not tearing it like completely down, but they just re-upped Chris Bryant for the year. But you know, they're not like the usual player that maybe they would be. You hear
Yeah.
sometimes stuff about the White Sox, depending on who you're talking about, and you know, these people that like to group the Blue Jays in there. But at what point, Dog? At what point are you one of these other teams that hasn't been mentioned? And you know, guys like you and I, and you know, women like Kim Eng are sitting there making a case behind the scenes and saying, "Hey, let's just make a play for this guy. Let's just start offering these people 1 year, 2 year deals at whatever. Let's offer like a bunch of these guys the same kind of thing and see if we could bring in like three people and just go sick for like a year or two." Like, isn't that going to happen? Like, are these conversations like happening? And if they are, like, usually like we would be hearing about it, like we'd be seeing stories written about it. Is it the COVID thing that like nobody's there? I mean, it's no difference. Like, you wouldn't be you know, a Mike Puma in the New York Post. You know, his job right now on January 18th is the same as it is every other January 18th. He's not in talking to people. He's not at the stadium, right? He's hearing things the same as he always hears things. And whoever is the Braves person is doing the same thing. And all the people in any markets, they're doing the same thing. How come we're not hearing that these conversations are taking place? That somebody's kicking the tires on Marcus Simeon and saying, you know what, dude? Come in and play shortstop for me for 2 years for 45 million, and then we'll take it from there. Like, give it a
I,
shot. Like, you're not getting it from anywhere else. Come in and take a shot.
yeah. I mean, I think that script is gonna have to change, right? You're gonna have people are gonna have to start jumping to that, to the 1 to 2 year. You're not necessarily gonna get those long contracts that they were looking for. I think the owners, they lost a ton of dough. I mean, that's sort of part of the big difference, right? You lost a ton of dough, and you're not sure how much, if you're gonna lose a lot of money, but you might once again this year, particularly if you're insisting on going starting around time. And oh, by the way, we don't even know if there's a DH. I mean, there's so much like self-inflicted stupidity up at baseball too, right? Like, how on earth can they be sitting here? So I'm gonna start popping my mic here. Riz was arguing with me about that. Um, how on earth do you not know if there's a DH in the National League right now? I mean, you're supposed to go down there in 3 weeks, right? I mean, that's the other joke, is that we're supposed to start spring training, and we're still kind of in the COVID time. Like, we've seen other reports. I think we were one of the early ones on it, but why don't you kick this back a month, 6 weeks, pay him out, whatever. I mean, find a way. It's not a real hard ask on here. Why are you sitting there trying to like squeeze through to start at April 1? No fans in the seats, whatever else like that. I mean, just there's a deal to be had there. But again, but beyond that, you're screwing up with like the DH, no DH like that. That totally changed. If I'm Springer, I'd be furious. I'm like, if the Mets knew they had DH, that really ramps forward the okay, and we can find whatever with Springer, and we'll make it work down the road, because he can play there for whatever, and hopefully Conforto or Nimmo or somebody else. We'll just juggle it around. We'll find a way. But if you're sitting there like, if I sign Springer and I got to sit Nimmo because I'm not going to get the DH in 2021, and I'm blowing one of Springer's last good years in center because I got to sit, my decent left fielder Nimmo. So I'm kind of offsetting what I'm adding there versus I know I have the DH and I'm ready to rock and roll. It probably still feels like it's an over 50% that the DH is going to happen, but wait, man, seriously, I mean, it's January 18th. How do we not know what the rules of the league are as you're trying to sign free agents right now? I mean, it's crazy. So anyway,
It
dog
really
rant.
is. I mean, especially if you're the Mets, like right now, because Dominic Smith is such an important piece for them in my estimation. I mean, apparently
100%.
not in Fangraphs, are the site that we love so much that doesn't have him projected as being a starter against right-handed pitchers. I'm like, I don't care if he's a 5 strat-wise in left field. That guy is playing for me every day in left field. I don't care if he can't catch the ball.
Yeah.
He'll learn a little bit how to catch the ball. He
Yeah,
won't.
like a 1,000 OPS, we could probably find a spot for him in the lineup.
Yeah, good dude, great bat. Not so worried about his defense and what it's going to cost me. Like, I need him in the locker room, and I need him in the I mean, I need him in the clubhouse in baseball, right? We say, and I need him on the field, right? So
And
he's
he's a better first baseman than their first baseman.
yeah, but I mean, he's also
Well,
able and
Bull Bear's pretty
willing.
good too.
he's
Yeah.
able and willing to actually go out and try to play left field. So I have his
Yep.
back for that.
Yep.
Um, let's talk about Real Muto now, like because
Sure.
I feel like this now to me between him and Bauer becomes the story of the off season from now until whenever they find a place. You know, they are the two gems because it's a battery, right? Now, if you're them, what do you think about this? We've seen these great, you know, these great duos in the past, Mike and the Mad Dog, Risen Dog, Steve Carlton and Tim McCarver, to name three, and you know maybe Garrett Cole and Kyle Higashioka. Like these are all names that you know are
Just
on the
roll
tip.
right off the tongue. Yep.
These are yeah. Madden and Summerall. You
Fad.
get the point.
Whitaker and Trammell.
How about Ryumuto and Bauer just try to make themselves like a package somewhere? Like why don't these guys like hook up and say, "Hey, let's figure out a way to end up on the same team because that would change the fortune of a team that's like a 500 or you know say a team that's like you figure maybe around a 500 team um that puts them into playoff contention, right? And is it about the money? Of course it's about the money, but
Nobody could afford that, right?
chances are yeah, but the thing
There's
is
there's one owner in baseball who can afford that right now.
hold
He
on.
just signed McCann.
Hold on. Look at the
Yeah.
market that's out there right now, right? These guys are in the same situation. And here's the thing. Here's my logic. Okay. Here's my logic, dog. You ready? This
Yep.
is
Yep.
my zinger. You're the money guy, the finance guy. So I know you gotta, and you're a hard marker. Dog's a hard marker. Okay? So you got to tell me, does this make sense?
Yep.
I'm going to make this statement. Whatever team could afford to sign Trevor Bauer can also afford to sign JT Realmuto. How about that? What do you think about that?
Hmm.
It doesn't work
Yeah.
necessarily
Okay.
the other way. It
I'll buy
doesn't work
that.
the other way.
Yeah.
But if it works that way, if you can afford to sign Bauer and you're willing to go in on Bauer, you can afford to bring Real Muto in with him. Well, how much more is it going to cost you? 90 million?
I mean,
More?
it's
100?
the ones with the big bucks. It's the luxury tax, right? And do they want to go over or not? There's clearly pressure to not go. I mean, obviously Cohen sort of signed something going into it. I'm going to guess there's some pretty hard pressure from other owners that aren't looking for people to be blasting the luxury tax as baseball revenues are down last year. So that's the only sort of wrinkle I could see on that where it would be hard. Um, the guys with luxury tax money, can they afford it, right? I mean, if you're the like I said, your points of Rays. I mean, the Rays have a ton, right? I mean, the Rays could sign anybody. They could sign them all, right?
Yeah.
Fit within it. If they want to go for it and just say, you know what, that's it. I mean, almost do they even need both? But or like I mean, it's let's just play it out. I mean, what about the Blue Jays? Like maybe just as a finance guy, is that just one where I'm just gonna pay through the roof, and I want to get my ballpark. I want to get everything opened. I want to make a statement that we're back in there and we're competitive. And if I gotta blow an extra 20 million a year because I'm adding Real Muto as well, oh well. And then I'm trying to make money on the long run. I'm trying to make a statement on
But
bringing those two guys in. Maybe.
right now, do you even have to blow the extra $20 million a year on Real Muto? Maybe you get him, maybe you're getting him cheaper now. Like maybe in another market, you'd never be able to even consider doing that.
Hmm.
But now, say you're the Cardinals, like, can you make that work somehow? Like I know it seems to, maybe bust a little bit of what they've tried to do, but I mean, Yadier Molina, okay, he's either what's he doing at this point, right? He's going to resign. I mean, how much? Like you and I still like him as a half the year, half the games catcher, right?
Yep.
And he's not going to hurt you in like a playoff game, a playoff type situation. But you know, it, Real Muto's better, right? I mean, at this point,
Yep.
he's probably significantly better. Um, And I don't know, like I'd be really taking a hard look at both. What about like the Mariners? I mean, what about Texas? I mean, can't you look at these guys and say, you know what, like we're gonna get spanked a little bit on this in the first year, but man, in a year from now, when everything's back to normal, and in Texas, our brand new ballpark is full, and a good solid team is going to draw people there, and then we can make it back to the playoffs because the division generally is not the strongest, right? I mean, you have so much movement up and down in the AL West all the time. I mean, like, why wouldn't you go for that? Like the Mariners, the even the Angels. I mean, the Angels we feel like would be one of those teams that would afford it and do it. But go
That's
after
true.
both guys. Go after both of those guys. Forget the just one. Hook them up.
Another
And
one. Another
yeah,
one.
do that. Hook up Real Muto and Bauer. And now, like, just the signing of the one, man, it's like totally it becomes a boon when you get both of them. Like it's huge. It's great enough just to get one of those guys, but you don't have to pay that much to get both in this market.
Yeah,
You
if you're,
know,
I mean, if you're a good team, I mean, where I think it kind of makes sense if you're a good team on the way up, and maybe this vaults you to great, and it gives, let's say Seattle's a good example, right? A team like that where, you know what, for once you kind of have the Cubs aren't throwing big bucks, the Red Sox, it seemed like, are still not necessarily throwing big bucks, the Phillies probably not, right? I mean, Yankees and Mets kind of doing their own thing at this point. You kind of got your shot of going for two guys that on a normal year you'd never have a chance at. I say, a Toronto does make sense with that too. I mean, again, their whole ballpark situation, everything too. Um, that does make some sense if they can find a way to figure the bucks.
what about like I mean, maybe even that well, I don't know. The way that the Dodgers and the Padres are so good now, I don't know that it would make sense for even the Giants to do it. They might
Yeah,
they might be better off like trying to, survey the landscape and be like,
yeah.
okay, we
Sell
might try
sell
to
into that market. Yeah, sell
we
into
might
that hot market.
we might try to summit this mountain in a couple of years, like
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's look, you're getting sort of the gift of being able to grab guys like this at terms that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get them, and terms that in 2 years before and 2 years ahead of now, you're going to look at and you're going to be like, wow, that's comparatively, we got this guy for for a bargain. And then it also decreases like, yeah, okay, so what if Bauer doesn't turn out to be as good as you hoped he would be, but you're paying him 27 million compared to what Garrett Cole's making? Like he's probably still going to be really good, and he's probably going to be, one of the guys in the front of your rotation regardless. He's gonna fit in to that number most likely no matter what. And of course, he's going to hold out until probably the bitter end. But I just Dawg just for some reason I don't see it the same as when Machado and Harper were out there waiting, 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 and it looked like the 300 million and whatever the 320 million that they respectively signed for, that looked lower than what they were really asking for and shooting for. But in the end, you were like, okay, why didn't they just do that from the beginning? They could have been with their teams for months ago. This is like exactly the deal that we figured they would get, and they, probably deserve based on their performance, plus the market. And a guy like this, a guy like Bauer, I don't blame him for shooting for that 36 million a year, but are you going to cut off your nose to spite your face and not
Yeah.
settle for 27 for, 7 years? Like you're not going to get it again. Like you have so much risk if you pitch for a year and you sign for 1 year and you suck, even if the market rebounds, like you're not going to get this again. You're going
Yeah.
to get
Or you get hurt.
yeah, or you get hurt, and then it's completely gone. If you're a pitcher, I mean, and I even say if you're a position player, but especially a pitcher, you and a catcher in this case too, Realmuto, you have to take the years. You have to. And
Yeah,
a guy like LeMahieu showed it to you. You
yeah,
take the years. They're offering you the years. You take the years. That's the big thing. The money in the end, it doesn't matter if you're getting the 200 million over 8 years or you're getting it over seven. Then just, if you're not going to get it for the seven, then just take it for the eight. you know, in the end, it's 200 million. Just take
yeah.
it. Like,
Have you been surprised the Yankees haven't been a harder or have been mentioned more for Bauer?
no, I'm not.
Okay.
I think what the Yankees are trying to wait and see is that they don't have to force themselves into this deal in terms of the years and the dough. They want to probably try to have more time to move, one of those massive contracts, meaning like Stanton's, off of their books, even if they have to take a hit on it. Um, and I think they'd be more interested in trying to be a trade partner to try to acquire somebody of that ilk, which is why when you hear the Luis Castillo stuff to the Yankees, it kind of makes sense, right? Like it makes sense that they go out and try to acquire a guy like that to add to their rotation rather than just adding a guy like Bauer, who becomes another heavy piece in terms of what you have to pay him right now, and clearly that puts them over the luxury tax if they're going to sign him. So
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me. I think they've felt like the inner mandate, not just for financial reasons, but for management reasons, to not exceed that luxury tax. Because let's face it, in the past, like the teams that have exceeded the luxury tax, there really hasn't been a reason for it. Like you have plenty of assets to be able to manage and build a successful team without having to exceed that luxury tax, and you should do it within a budget, because guess what? Everybody knows in anything, when you have a budget, you are much more critical of your decision making up and down, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about dollars, you're talking about a company, you're talking about departments within a company. Like, for us average Joes, we're working in companies, and your division or whatever has a budget, and there's headcount, and you're paying a certain amount for salaries, you're paying a certain amount for this, that, the other thing. If you're uh, counting your calories and your macros, you have a budget of how many calories you're going to eat per day, right? And the more you stick to that budget, right? You could afford more food, maybe, but the more you stick to that budget, the better your body might work, right? And
Yeah.
the more you hit your fat, protein, and carb goals, the more efficient things might work for you. So why should that be different for baseball teams and baseball front offices? The ones that really don't, go over the luxury tax, uh, can seem to do just fine. There's no reason to do it. There's really no reason to exceed it unless, I mean, if you're so good at developing your own players and you want to keep them there, and that, re-signing of the players that you grew is why you want to do that, then yeah, then that's when I could see that you'd want to go over the luxury tax.
Yeah.
Or if you're so desperate, like, yeah, you have a
Someone goes down, right? You
yeah, you
got to
have like a
replace them. That's a
yeah, like a
natural, right?
a, a
Yeah.
catastrophe,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you
Your number
have,
two goes down. You got to replace it.
right, and it's within your window, right? Like it's
Yeah.
within your competition window. Like there's obvious exceptions, but these teams that are going right now, I mean, they're like the Yankees. There's no reason for them to do that. They've shown that they could get better by shrewd trades. I mean, if you had no attention to the luxury tax window, you'd never make a trade to find a guy like Luke Voigt. I mean, look at how good that trade ended up being. I mean, the Cardinals got, a good pitcher out of it, and nobody ever talks about that side of it. But, you know, Luke Voigt, okay, 60 game season. The guy still led the league in home runs. I mean, he's a solid first baseman, and you got him for, a very reasonable price. You made a shrewd deal. You took a chance on a guy who hadn't really played much in the majors, and was not at an age where, typically you'd say, oh, okay, like I think this guy's got something. And everybody else is like, dude, he's 26, 27. Like, if he hasn't made it by now, like, what, I mean, I'm not sure what you're seeing, but sure, go ahead. And, they've made a few deals like that. Like, those deals are out there to be made. And a lot of times those end up being the difference for teams, putting you over the top. So yeah, I think there's good reason for the Yankees to have been very much in on Bauer. I think if they decided that they wanted to use Sanchez as the centerpiece to go and get a Luis Castillo, then it would make sense for them if they understood that they were going to do that with the intention of then immediately signing JT Realmuto, because okay, you moved one asset to change the asset because Real Muto is better than Gary Sanchez, right? And Castillo is going to be better than whoever he bumps out of the rotation. So you get a win-win there. If you have to start giving up Davy Garcia as part of the deal, maybe it doesn't make as much sense. You'd rather just stick with what you got.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Dog. That's a good question. I like that you brought it up, and I don't know if you agree with me, but that's just the way I see it.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally the way the Yankees have been going. And honestly, I mean, the way the Yankee farm system reacted last year with all the injuries and how competitive the Yankees were, that sort of feels like you're on that right track. That you do have the depth in the organization that you're supposed to kind of let it continue to develop, and then give yourself the resources to keep those guys around when they do become available. I mean, and that's sort of the other big trend in baseball, right? Is once you get a good young guy, you don't let him go out there. You don't let him test it.
Right.
So,
Unless you're the Pirates.
oh, yeah, let's say let's shoot the poor Pirates, and we should let everybody go.
Listen, I mean, a lot of it is you reap what you sow, man. I mean, come on. Like, listen, they were telling, they were
So
telling,
at least they didn't trade with a raise this time.
yeah, no, yeah, that's true.
They might have a chance of doing okay in this deal.
I mean, yeah, at least they got five prospects, and if one of them ends up being as good as Musgrove, then I guess they did okay for themselves. But I mean, like, you can't sit there as an organization and have Garrett Cole try to pitch to contact, and then he gets shipped out and he becomes like the best strikeout pitcher in the league, and not question like what you're doing and your methods like throughout the organization. I mean, you gotta have like a little bit of self awareness there, and if they start changing those things as an organization, they're in position where they're drafting high enough that they should be able to, stockpile prospects. And listen, getting five prospects for Joe Musgrove, that's pretty good. Like,
Yeah,
they're not getting like super high guys, but they're getting them from, the Padres have a great farm system. So when you're getting 7 and 13 from the Padres, that's better than the 7 and the 13 probably that you even have.
yeah.
So that's a pretty good deal. Looks to Dog also, this, we're not into like the whole breaking news things, but Matt Kelly again from MLB.com at Matt Kelly MLB, he's going to gain, you know, maybe negative 2, 3 Twitter followers with us pushing him here. It says the big left-hander, big hoss John Lester is working
Yeah, I
on
saw that
agreement with the
with the
Nats.
Nats. Yeah.
So it's not confirmed. The team has not confirmed the talks or that a deal is imminent, and he says that the source told John Paul Morosi from MLB. Didn't Lester like pay bar tabs for like didn't he put like a $48,000 thing in Wrigleyville to you know as a going away present for Cub fans?
I have not heard that, but that sounds really cool, and I hope that is true. But I actually don't know that one there. Just had a crazy thought on this one. What if the Mets are going to dump Mats after Lucchese? I mean, Mats is definitely not high up on the Mets organization digging him at this point. I wonder if Lucchese coming in. I wonder if that supplants Mats, and to free up a little bit of salary. I wouldn't be shocked if the Mets actually moved out for Mats. He's coming up. He's got one more. I think this is last year, and then they can hit free agency, or maybe he's got one more year after that. But while I wouldn't like to see that, I wouldn't actually be shocked on that one, because I think the organizational folks are just not there with Mats right now. He's not
Okay,
really in the conversation.
you and I both believe, I think, that Matt's is better as not a starter if
I see. I
possible.
disagree with you on that one.
Oh wait,
Uh,
I thought you liked Bats as the 2 or 3 inning guy.
He could. And my problem with Mats is that he normally he's either on or he's off, and I'd rather like get when he gets going, you kind of keep going with him. He's not a reliable starter. I mean, he's not a great. Honestly, he's not a great fit in either spot at this point. He gets way too mentally. He's definitely not there for any sort of like impact reliever. He could give you some innings. He could probably be an okay sort of 3 inning guy every second or third day or so, but you'd have to watch it with him. Like I said, just mentally, he's fragile. He takes it to heart too much. He's too nice a kid. So
I don't know. I think at this point you have almost nothing to lose. I mean, you brought in another lefty in that spot. You can compete, he can compete for
yeah,
that, spot at the back of the rotation. I definitely like Mats as like a 2 inning, maybe 3 inning guy. And, maybe on some of the other days he can come in and get a batter or two.
yeah.
Um,
Maybe a
and
long
and
guy.
I-
Could
and
be a
and I
long
think
guy.
you could, you could spot start him as well.
Yeah,
I like he's shown so many flashes. He just seems like one
yeah.
of those guys that at some point, I feel like he's gonna get it.
He
Like
was
he's been so
18
close
into
so many
19. He
times.
really was getting there, and then sort of like the end of 19, he was kind of spitting the bit a little, and then he was just terrible this time. So
Yeah,
um,
I'm
we'll
given like
see.
we've talked about it a lot. Like I'm given
He's only 4 mil, so he's
yeah
not a brutal one to keep, right? So
yeah he's not. I mean
yeah,
there's worse deals out there.
yeah.
But I'm willing to give anybody a mulligan on what happened with 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll also take great performances with a little bit of a grain of salt. Like I look at performances of
But you want to give Bauer
tw-
200 million?
no, I'm just about to say that. Like I'm looking at the 2020 plus the 2 previous years for guys that have been in the league.
Yeah.
And then I have a good idea of, okay, this guy just needed a little time to figure it out. He just didn't get on track, or maybe he had a little bit of a nagging injury, and the stats look worse than they are. Maybe it's a game here and there that he had bad performances, and that bolstered an ERA. Or for a guy like Bauer, it looks like it's definitely was building to that. And I felt like if they pitched a whole season, Bauer, would he have been as good as he was? Probably not, because he would have had to face a lot better lineups throughout the rest of the majority of the National League, and then the other teams in the American League that he would have played. But um, to me, his performance was leading up to that. That I'm not surprised Bauer did very well last year, because I think that wherever he goes, he's going to do very well. And I think that on certain teams he's going to do very, very well, and on other teams maybe, I mean, if he ends up in Colorado, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But um, I expect him to be a front of the rotation guy, not just based on his 2020 stats. That being the point.
Yeah.
Is that it, Dog? Diamond Dads? Are we ready?
I'm a dad's. Yeah, I think we got to transition over to this.
Okay. Here's the our famous transition music. And Dog on Diamond. So what is Diamond Dads? It's Diamond Dads is a segment where we're Diamond diehards and we're dads, and we talk about dad stuff. And it's short and it's fun, and it kind of ends the show. So Dog, your Diamond Dad moment today
Oh,
has to do with the aqua.
ironically, I cover water utilities as well. So I got my I got my water bill, and actually, funny story. I guess it's up a little bit. So I dodged like a gigantic bullet earlier this week because I thought my main water line to the house was busted. So like our sidewalk was flooding. There's nothing out there. There's no sprinkler system. Where could this water come from? I'm like, there's only one pipe in, and that's it, right? I'm like, I'm totally screwed. Blah blah blah. I get a plumber in. Turns out when they rebuilt my house, they like I used to have a front faucet in like the Cape it used to be, and now it's a Colonial, and like somehow they just like capped it off. And, like instead of like cutting the valve back and bring it back to like a regular water line, they just sort of left the thing out there. Well, I don't know. Somehow our freaking water line gets opened up, or crack. And that's been open, and then the thing cracked because it got that we had that cold spell. So basically, like the water faucet is like flowing out into the ground by my sidewalk and finding its way, and then flooding the sidewalk and just like building up everywhere. Like totally opposite where I was thinking was coming. So I'm like, so the guy somehow magically figures this out, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy's like a miracle worker. So great job. Wouldn't even take any money. Fantastic guy. So anyway, so he stops that. So I'm like, I'm already kind of intrigued on the whole water thing, right? So the water is in my head already. So the bill comes in. I'm like, you know what? Let me whip up the bill here and let's see what's going on with my American water here. I pulled open, and so I see like, our usage, blah, 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 blah. The girls come home from college, boom, boom, right? So it does like the 33% jump up there in December and January. I'm like, oh, great. That's before I'm watering my sidewalk for like 3 days. So the February one number will be tremendous. So we're going through with that, and I look down at just how much water we're actually using. So they use like different units and stuff. You can't necessarily always tell. And I'm like, I cover water utilities. I'm like, I've done logistics for the Army. I know this, 6, 10 gallons a day. That's sort of planning factor, blah, 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 clean a little bit. So 7 in the house right now. So Miles is now down there. So I guess we were 8. I guess we were 8 for this sample period. So eight in the house. You want to take a gander at how much gallons per day, mind you, per day was going through the Dawg household. I guess 9 if you count the dog.
I'm going to say 69 gallons a day.
69 gallons. Seems reasonable. You know what? If you even said 600 gallons a day, that still seems like a lot, right? I mean, that's a lot of water.
Yeah.
1,468 gallons an effing day. A day, mind you. That's like every 4 days, a giant tanker truck like fills up the gas stations. Like one of those comes up and like docks at my house, and I burn it down in 4 days, and then I need to get another one in. Oh my wife is saying overreacted. I am not overreacted. Let me tell you what, that's like an African village for a month. They would get that one day. Oh my stars and garters. That's a lot of water. That's what I'm saying. So we need to take some adjustments in the household, and perhaps like while we're updating our Insta and everything else like that, we don't let the water like run in the shower for like hour and a half or so while it's cranking away. But we've got some issues. If this was California, that bill would have been like $2,000. It's like, oh my god. So thankfully it wasn't a gigantic number, which is scary in its own right. Like how much water we must waste as Americans. It's actually it's a little horrifying. So that was my dad's story day. Needless to say, I took a 5-minute shower today. Oh, and I go and take it. Oh, actually, no. And I go and take a shower today. So I'm like, I'm back from a walk. I've got to run somewhere quick. One girl's in the shower because 12 hours a day someone's in the shower apparently in my house. So one girl's in there. I gotta get out. I go out. I'm like eating my lunch. So I'm going to run up there. My son jumps in the shower. So I had to stop him before he got in. So I'm like, well, what a fiasco this entire week. So that's my week for the water usage in the Dawg household.
And this segment of Diamond Dads marks the background debut of Cat Healy. Yes, Dawg and Cat.
It's got the claws out.
I did hear Cat in the background.
Yes, there
with
was.
The claws out. Well,
Dawg and Cat.
Yeah, that's I think I don't know if the Rizzos use quite that much water, because I don't even use hot water most of the time. I have my midlife crisis steam shower, and I go with that steam. I steam that sucker up, and then I go right to the cold water. So I could shower whenever I want, and but as long as it's in my steam shower, and I'm not taking hot water away from anybody. But the triplets all love to decide that they're going to shower at exactly the same time, so it's super brawls every night at like 10:20. I called first. I go, what the hell were you guys doing for the last 7 hours? Like, nobody has to go to school. Like, you couldn't shower at like 8 o'clock, and then hang out in your pajamas or not your pajamas, and no, yeah. I'm not, you know what? I'm not even going to go into Diamond Dads today because Dawg just crushed it. So I think we're good. I think we're good on the Diamond Dads. And if we ever switch it up,
Dawg is coming in.
and there's If we have female co-hosts, we'll have diamond moms, or is that what we would call it? What we
Sure,
call,
why not?
like diamond dads has the alliteration, but diamond
Think about
debutantes, I don't know.
do
Uh,
dames, but I think that might be a little dated.
diamond
We might get in
dames,
trouble on that one.
diamond dam. What are you, Joey Bishop? What is this, like the
Yeah,
rat
you got me
pack?
talking about Luke Casey. I'm all Jersey boys now.
Here's the dog's like, hey, where's the broads, baby? Are you gonna go to like do the varsity drag over
You know,
there? Okay.
we started off so well with diversity and inclusion with at the start of the show. Now the dog's dropping names.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
All
Yeah,
right, so
well,
we got to work on
yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
it.
All right, so check out fmsgraphics.com, and that's for all your printing and promotional needs. If you follow the chat, you'll see the selfless promotion for uh, the Mascola Group Realty Pros, but that's very local. That's only if you're in North Jersey, so you could check them out as well. Um, what else, dog? If you want to follow us on all the social media, we're at Diamond Diehards everywhere. YouTube is the only place I think where we're not Diamond Diehards, but it's easy enough. You just type in Diamond Diehards in your YouTube search, and you'll find this video. If you're watching already on YouTube and you've found it, you did it. So congratulations.
Ooh,
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook group, Facebook page, LinkedIn. That's a big one. If you'd like to do business with us, like the Mescolo Group and FMS Graphics, we're all ears. So I think that's going to do it. We won't even worry about the personal Twitters and whatever. But you just look at the
yeah,
description.
figure it out.
Everything's there. Everything's there. So that's going to do it on a very special Martin Luther King Day episode of Diamond Diehards. Love each other. It's all about the love. Love will beat hate, and but you have to work on it, people. And with that, for the dog, Jeff Healy, this is Joe Rizzo. Diamond Diehards. It's out.